Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 in the Advanced Vape build guide. So today we're going to do something different. Not in the build deck, but in the wires that we're going to build. We're going to do something really different. We're going to go with parallel wires. So I'm going to explain real quick what exactly that means and why we're going to do it. So a parallel wire is kind of a creative way to get more wires in there for less amount of resistance. So if you're using something like Canthal, it's a way to double the amount of wraps for the same given resistance. But something like stainless steel, the resistance is so low that that's really not a factor. So the reason why you would do it with stainless is to kind of get more wraps in there without getting too high resistance, and to combine the characteristics of two different types of wires. So we're going to go today, I'm going to be making Clapton 2630, Clapton, and Vertebraid. So we're going to put both of those together and make a parallel dual coil. So it's kind of a creative solution to fitting more coils in a given space. So what we're essentially doing is making 4 coils instead of 2. And you'll see what I mean once we get started. So I'm going to get both lengths of Vertebraid and Clapton, put them right next to each other, and we're going to wrap them just as we would if they were by themselves, but at the same time. And this is going to be on a 3mm jig. So I'm going to get them lined up. And these are a little bit harder to wrap, so I'm going to go slow. And I'm going to do 6 wraps. I need to make sure that they stay aligned together when I'm wrapping them. I need it to be Clapton Vertebraid instead of them getting all bunched up on each other. So that's my first wrap. Here's number 3. So as you can see, I'm just going slow and making sure that they're lined up okay. That they have the same pattern. So here's what it looks like done. This is 6 wraps, but it's 6 wraps of each coil, if that makes sense. And that's it. You need to kind of be careful because you don't want them to get out of sync, out of alignment there. And I'm going to go in and wrap the second one. See, on this one, I did Clapton on the outside, Vertebraid on the inside, so I need to do the same with this one. And it's really just that first wrap that's the hard one. I chose these wires as our first parallel build because they kind of keep their shape. I can let go of it, and it's still in good shape. If I was doing something like a hive, this would be much more difficult. So I need to make sure that they don't get twisted. There we go. And there's our two parallel coils. And for ease of installation, I'm going to be putting this on the velocity today. So by now, if you've been following along these episodes, guys, you should be pretty familiar with the velocity and why I continue to use it. So when it comes to installation, it's pretty much the same. One thing I need to be aware of is I need to make sure that both wires are captured on each leg. So as you can see, I'm essentially installing two coils at once. Gotta find my Allen wrench. So I'm just gonna hold them both in place. Make sure that, make sure that they're both being captured as I tighten it down. So I know I made this leg a little bit short, so I'm just gonna double check. There we go. And as you can see, I've got them kind of on top of each other instead of, they're laying like this in there instead of like this. So if I was doing it in a 4-post where the screws come down from the top, I would lay them like that. But screws on a velocity coming from the side, and I want to lay it like that. And we'll go on to our next one. Actually, I'm going to go on and get these legs out of the way first, so we don't even have to worry about messing with them. It can be a little hard getting two large wires to go in the post holes together. But it's much easier on a velocity with those huge holes than it is on something smaller. I need to move this out of the way. Okay, got them both in there. Now I'm just going to tighten them down. Getting a good tight connection is very important on parallel. Now I'm just trying to get these wires off of there, the legs. So of course, doing this with stainless steel, I'm going to end up with a very low resistance, probably below 0.1. So there's going to be quite a few mods that aren't able to do that. That's just something you need to be aware of if you're wanting to do parallel coils. You need to check and see if your mod is capable of handling a resistance that low. And you also need to be very careful that you don't have shorts, because it has such a low resistance that it could appear to be a short when you're looking at it on an ohm meter. But we'll see what it looks like. Let's see if I can cut these. I'm just moving that up and out of the way. Okay, I've got them both in position, both looking good, and with the legs taken off, so we're ready to go now. Looks all right, and we're ready to start firing. So I expect it to be about a 0.08. This is reading a 0.07. So extremely low. I'm going to see if I can scooch it out just a tiny bit. Now I'm double checking to make sure that all the connections are there. Something you always want to make sure of when you're doing parallel coils, you want to make sure that all the wires are actually heating up, and it's not just like if only the vertebrae were heating up, it would eventually heat up the Clapton just because they're right next to each other. That would kind of soak that heat across. But you want to make sure that they're actually all receiving power and heating up. So I'm just being patient with it and slowly working with it. And that looks pretty good. It's going to take quite a bit of heat to power these coils because it's so low resistance and it's a lot of wire. And just briefly, I want to explain why I chose this combination for a parallel coil. So, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, one of the reasons why you would choose a parallel coil when you're building with stainless steel is to get the characteristics of both kinds of coil and kind of mash them together. So the Vertebraid has a very fast ramp up. It just lights up super quick, and the Clapton is more of a slow, gradual build up. So when you combine those together, you kind of get a staged heating thing going on where the Clapton ramps up. The Vertebraid ramps up quick, the Clapton slowly builds up, and that can kind of get different aspects of the juice that you put on there heating up together, if that makes sense. Different temperatures at the same time because those wires heat differently, and you can just kind of get the characteristics of those wires. See, as you can see, the Vertebraid is heating up first, and then the Clapton. I'm pretty excited to try this out. I'm going to move on to wicking. Because this is a really hot build with quite a bit of coil, you want to make sure that you have enough wick in there to hold quite a bit of juice. It's going to be a thirsty kind of coil. So I'm putting more wick in there than I normally would. That's really tightly wrapped in there. Seems like I always manage to knock something over. Just trying to make sure I have plenty of wick in there. If I didn't put a whole lot of wick in there, this is the kind of build that would run it dry. All right, that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited to try it out. Definitely going to be going with max VG juice for this. And you really want to, don't be shy with the juice. So as you can see, I'm still just putting on the coil part of it. This coil can hold quite a bit. Now it's starting to get down into the legs of the wick. And I'm just barely pulse firing it to help soak it in. All right, that should be good. Double check one more time we don't have a short. And I'm gonna crank this thing up a little ways. I'm gonna try starting out at 70. We'll see how it goes. A little too much air. Got to burn off a little bit of that juice before the clouds really start up. Now we're getting going. It's a pretty hot, kind of dense vape. That's a lot of wire, so it holds its heat together. So it's fairly warm. Tastes really good though. It's one of the best flavor builds for the velocity that I've tried. I'm gonna try it in temp control, see how it goes. So I'm gonna have to wait just a minute for it to cool down, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I switched over to temperature control mode, and I had to let it cool down, and just to make sure that it got the ohms right. You don't want to be firing it and it be the resistance be off because it's heated up. So you want to make sure it's always room temperature when you switch back. So we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to go at 90 watts and 470 degrees. I know it's kind of hard to tell because of the way that this camera angle is, but those are really big clouds. Really dense, lots of flavor, and just huge clouds. So this whole room is fogged up now. That's going to bring us to the end of episode 5 of the build guide. Episode 6, we're going to try and do just a normal build on a 3-post deck. So if you like this video, if this build worked out for you, just leave us a comment, send us an email, or if you have any questions, if you have any recommendations for something that we could make a video on for this channel, just let me know. And we'll see you on episode 6.